two guys in hockey talk on the Velvet Cats, which we'll talk about a little bit later about why I love cats, Zygmunt, and I've got my beautiful Cool Shades co-host, Evan. Evan, how you doing?
Hey, Evan Renners, Revan Av, at Revan Av. Got to follow me on Twitter today, man. Controversy. But before we do, you got something to introduce today?
I want to introduce our latest fan.
Whoa!
This is Rowan. Say hi, Rowan, to the world. To our 6 followers. He is the biggest hockey fan ever.
So today's show.
And I got his first hockey stick, so he's ready to go. He's going to be a center.
Oh, look at that. Now, is that a team name on that hockey stick?
It's Ultimate Software, so I hope they sponsor us.
Look he's better than you, Pavel. He's already got us a sponsor, man. Hey, Rowan.
He already knows exactly more than we know about hockey, at least myself. But I'm going to give him back to Mom, and we got a show to get to. But he's going to be following.
Look at he actually wants you to turn him around so he can talk to us.
All right. What do you got? What do you got to say?
Are you serious? You know more than your dad already? So
he does.
Folks,
that's why he's not saying anything. That's the smart thing to do.
Well, congratulations. Oh, there he goes. By the way, you don't toss him around like a hockey puck, eh?
I mean, like if it's a piece of dung puck.
So, hey, I just got to say, I'm wearing my shades tonight because I'm cool with what's gone down in free agent frenzy today. In fact, I see things so clearly that I am about with our last show of the year. I'll explain that in a minute. So which episode are we today?
41.
41 episodes. Wow. And that will be it for this season. But before we do, last year I ended and I gave a wild prediction. I was only 2 games off that Tampa would three-peat, but I am now ready to bring a new prediction for this year. They're not always the same. Behind me, the Western Conference Finals will once again be the Edmonton Oilers, with McDavid leading the way against the superstar Supernova Makar and the Colorado Avalanche.
Ooh, bold prediction. Who you got in the East then?
I haven't got that far yet, buddy. My predictions are hard to do. You know, I'm not the guy that takes the prediction where 90% of the people wait for everything else to happen and then they just make it easy, right? I don't make 17 brackets and then provide to all my followers. The difference is I just call it, and either I totally screwed it up or I didn't.
This is how you appear smart. Even Rowan doesn't like your bracket and the fact that you have nothing for the East Side, right?
Oh, okay.
He is just upset and appalled.
Okay.
You won't pick Tampa as a 4. Woo!
Well, they had the three-peat first. Okay, so why don't you go ahead, and before we get going, this is going to be a frenzy of a show. Free agent frenzy finishes off our show. There's going to be stuff going on while our show's going on. It's going to be all crazy everywhere. Guys, we're jacked. We're ready for a show we're going to talk through. We haven't prepared nothing. We're just talking straight out. And the reason is because there's so much bloody stuff to talk about here. But go ahead. I know you want to tell me I was wrong before we went on air here. You were texting me. Go ahead. Let's hear it.
Johnny Gaudreau. Oh, I feel so good. He is now a member of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and he is gone. And you kept saying he's going to stick around and stay in Calgary and count him. Now, I feel for Calgary Flames.
Yeah,
I really do.
I'm wearing red. I'm wearing red in honor of the memorial. It's like it's actually a mourning today for that team.
For locals, they'll know this, especially Edmontonians. It's like driving on the Anthony Henday. You're on it and you just want to get off. You don't know why you're on it. That's what today feels like for the Calgary Flames fans.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, you know what? Before we get into Johnny Gaudreau, I like to talk about this a little bit. Why don't we go ahead? You got your bevy. You guys grab your bevy. Take a drink. Look at that. He has a kid and he starts drinking. Okay. So,
I didn't need a kid to start drinking.
Okay. So
I was just born an Oilers fan.
So yeah, in the decade of darkness. Okay, so I do want to mention here, I don't have anything that I can share right now. I am getting very mild stories that are coming out. something is off about Goudreau taking less and going to a place that is not his home or close to his home. His wife is they just had a kid, and his wife is from Philadelphia. His hometown is in New Jersey. Everyone thought maybe the Islanders, but he totally went. I mean, it's like McDavid saying, that I want to go play closer to home in Toronto, so I'm going to sign in Winnipeg. That's what this is like.
I would say more. He's still in the division, so it would be like going to Buffalo or Ottawa.
No, because his flying. This is about not playing. This is about how close is home. So Columbus, Ohio is like Winnipeg to Toronto. That's what I'm talking about. This isn't about where he's playing. This is actually, there's something up about this. And so I've done some digging as hard as I can dig in the little time, because I was also traveling every night. I'm trying to get information. I got, this is what, now I'm taking a stab in the dark. Please don't go throwing rumors out there. I don't know if this is true, but it's sounding from a lot of different, like I'm talking, I looked into 11 different places with different people, and about 6 or 7 are saying along in there, and this is what it might have happened. Something occurred during the playoffs with Sutter. There very well could be that high potential possibility. I don't know this for certain, so please don't say, well, I haven't said so. Because maybe it's not true, but there is something, Pavel. You got to admit, why would he be in Columbus? And I'm going to post it on my Twitter, @Revenev on Twitter. Follow me, guys. I've been trying to keep quite actively busy. Even though I've been rough today, I've actually been off work here today, and I've kind of pulled myself together to make this show because it's a frenzy. It's just a frenzy of a day. I got headaches and stuff. But, by the way, we need to follow you at Color Avenue. And Pavel the Cat, follows all cats.
Well, of course. And the next greatest thing, as an aside quickly, before we return to Johnny Gaudreau, is the fact that Jack Campbell is an Edmonton Oiler. They have their goaltender, and he himself had a birthday party for his cat. So just goes to show you, Soupy loves cats. I love Soupy. And of course, Toronto, where he represented. I mean, he's gone there, and there's definitely questions in Toronto. But back to Gaudreau. I do want to point out 2 things.
Okay.
Because we're going to talk about Calgary. First off, don't take away anything from Columbus. Congrats to the Columbus Blue Jackets for finally being able to get a big fish. They've struggled keeping big players there, whether it was Artemi Panarin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's Sergei Bobrovsky. They've struggled, right? Even Seth Jones, leaving, going to Chicago. So good for Columbus, because this is definitely going to change the dynamics of the team, and it may increase the chances that Laine signs long-term. And now you have a really good 2 wingers that could play in your top line, depending on who you play in the center role, right? And they have a lot of young and upcoming depth, and we're going to see how that team develops, especially under Brad Larson. The thing with Calgary is, where do they go from here? They haven't signed Nikita Zadorov. Tkachuk is an RFA with 1 more year on his contract. Does he stay? And do they go through a rebuild, Evan?
Okay. A couple of things. I just want to go back to the Johnny. You're right. Columbus has lost people. Right now, though, they're not a competitive. They are not making the playoffs this next year, even with Johnny Gaudreau. They're still not making it. They were all 100-point teams in that division. Ottawa's just got better here today. We'll talk about. So there's just something kind of weird here. Okay, let's go to Calgary. Let's talk to the Calgary fans. You start this off. What do you got to say to help these poor Calgary fans today? If you're a Calgary Flame man, right now, this felt like someone just died. It just felt like you lost someone that you loved in your family, that you trusted, that you thought might come back, and if he doesn't come back, he's going home, but he goes somewhere else, and he signs for a year less. It was like, somewhere around like $17 million?
Yeah.
No, like 17.
I think he signed for 9.7 for 7 years.
And he was offered 10 and a half.
By 10. No, 10, he was offered 8
by 10 and a half. Exactly.
Yeah, and there was rumblings even up to 11 in some reports.
Right. So you think of that. They would have done it. And you lose a year, too, of that contract. Why is he going to lose that, right? So, okay, but it doesn't matter. It's happened. We got to bury the hatchet here. What does Calgary do for the rebuild? I personally think that they're in there right now. Brad got taken off guard a bit, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm guessing I haven't heard absolutely anything. I'm just looking at what the team has done in the past, pure speculation, and I'm thinking that they're definitely trying. They're in on Kadri, and they're also potentially in on Ryan Strome and Dylan Strome. So
Yeah.
to see, can they do something to make fix? But if they're going after Kadri, they're going to be paying a high dollar on that one. And I know there's reports that Colorado, could he take less and go back there? I do not think he's going to. He's won his cup now. He's going to try and cash in. And I mean, you can't blame him after you've won your cup.
100%, 100%. You make the most of it. And Colorado has other priorities as well. And they've signed up, Arturi Lehkonen. They've lost Burakovsky to Seattle. So now they got to fill that top 6 winger. Where are they going to find him? They recently signed just before the free agent frenzy. Nichushkin, that was a big deal for them for 8 years at 6.5, which is a little long for my blood, but he deserved it. He really found his home and fits in that system. And sometimes that's what it is. I don't know. Calgary needs to kind of reassess. Now, you can never replace a 100-point player, but at the same time, you can make do. They got along without Giordano, who had a really great career and Norris-like season a couple of years back before he got shipped off to Seattle and now is in Toronto. But I really think that they can get past this. I just don't see them being top of the Pacific at all next season, especially with LA coming up and a few other teams that potentially can make a push.
Yeah, well, and then if you think about it, so really in their top 6, right? Who do you got? You really, I guess, are going to run Michael Backlund as their second center. You run Blake Coleman. He can play either side. You got Elias Lindholm playing the front. Toffoli's going to have to be in the top 6. Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, you got Kachuk, which is a given. And Mangiapane now has to be a top 6 no matter what. Yeah. They're going to make a move. They're going to throw someone in there, but they also lost Kubransky and Zadorov. They're big tough guys on the back end.
Well, no, they haven't lost Zadorov yet. He just hasn't signed anywhere. But
it sounds like he's got some good offers coming in that I don't see them signing to. I think they were going to move on from him anyway. But I mean, there's rumor that Edmonton's interested in him too. So I mean, we'll see what's happening on that. Yeah, I don't think he fits the Edmonton mold. I think he's a little too slow, even though he's good positionally. So we'll see what happens on that front. But I think Calgary's going to have a hard time making the playoffs this year, and that's a really sad thing for Calgary, and that's going to be a really sad thing because I think everyone was excited to maybe see the Battle of Alberta again next year in the playoffs.
Now, to cheer some Albertans up, let's talk about the northern team, Edmonton Oilers.
Let's do it.
What are your thoughts on their moves? So you kind of go through the 3 big key signings that they did.
Okay.
And maybe anything additional.
So let's talk about that boss move, eh? The boss move, swagger man, Evander Kane. Yes. It's like, screw you, insiders. I am going to announce my own hello and welcome to Edmonton chant. It's just like, I got to say, I felt inside that was what was going to happen. And then, if you recall, he did that letter to thank everybody. And then his Twitter account removed everything Oilers, which kind of made sense. And then there was a talk that a lot of people are saying he can demand $7-8 million out there for 3 years.
For 6 to 7 years. That's what he was asking for.
Well, no. I mean, but a lot of the, your Craig Buttons and your Brian Laughtons, they're just feeling he can get a lot. Maybe not with a ton of teams still because they're still not sure. So to see him come in, and you know what? Maybe the 4th year people are saying they're not sure on. At a guy that can produce like he does and is very injury-free most of the time, he is a unicorn. He's very unusual, and he is what I said. I actually felt the Oilers would be in big trouble without him. I didn't think they could replace him. I wasn't into a Josh Anderson replacement kind of a thing. I just love the way he came in, and he just set the show. It's like, hey, everybody, come sign in Edmonton. I resigned. Hey.
And honestly, it's the same thing like we've talked about with picks, where who cares what's down the line in 2020 in the future,
Yeah.
Like this, you're in win it now mode in the next 3 years. That's your goal. And he's only going to be 35 at that age, and there's still players such as Pavelski who's performing at that age. So it can happen where players can recreate. Joe Thornton's still playing in his 40s. Jaromir Jagr, who was announcing today that he's also a free agent at 50 and at his size, and he's available. So
I take it for
to go fly on him.
I take Jagr from my 4th line still.
You did a solid. So yeah,
Hey,
what about
hey.
the other moves?
Well, why don't you give us your thoughts here on Kulak resigning and the new goalie?
So I was a little spooked with Kulak not returning to Edmonton just because he wanted to test the markets, and I really thought that maybe Montreal could offer him a bit more money. I don't know
Well,
about
yeah,
term. I mean, because they're an up and coming team, they have a lot of cap space. They're rebuilding, and to have a veteran presence on the left hand side there, and they had just lost Romanov, who was a big part of that decor.
right.
But and of course they lost Sherrod as well, who also resigned with Detroit. So props to them. But questionable contract there. So he's a good stabilizer, especially with Duncan Keith retiring. This is really good for the Oilers because they need that steady, stay-at-home defenseman presence there, who's got size and grit and can stay healthy and play well. I like the deal. I like the term. I was hoping maybe he'd be 2.5, maybe 2.25, but it's okay. I'll take it. And he's a homeboy. Always good to have those. Now, as for Stoopy, I love it. People talk about, well, this and that and try to justify it. But really, for 5 years at a goalie who's 31, turning 31 soon, that's pretty solid. You need a good goalie. And usually goalies hit their strides at this age, but you can speak more to that. And, he brings a lot. He had a good season. And honestly, I'm surprised that Toronto didn't want to offer him that term. So I'm sure the dollar was fine, but the term is probably what spooked them. But we'll see what Toronto does because they made some interesting moves as well, as one would say. But
So I know there's a lot. I wouldn't mind speaking to Mr. Soup Campbell. Obviously, that's what we're going to be calling him. I think it's kind of a dumb name, but poor guy. He doesn't seem to care, though.
I'm just thinking of that Seinfeld episode with the Nazi soup guy. He's like, goes saying to Toronto, "No soup for you."
So, I mean, there is a certain amount of risk in this, but you get older with someone like Kemper. I was concerned about Kemper, just worried. Yeah, he's had a little bit better of a record, and he was on the Stanley Cup winning team, but
he didn't win. He didn't win it for them. He was part of that team, but he wasn't the reason why they won.
Exactly. Where I've been having disagreements on Twitter, and again, you can follow me at Revidev on Twitter. I throw that out there to you guys because I love having these conversations around goalies because a lot of people say, he's no good, he's a piece of crap, and then the next day, he gets a shutout, and they're like, oh my God, sign this guy. This is the next Dominic Hasek. It's just
Look
like
who I got. I got another special guest.
Oh, look at you, Mr. Soup Campbell. We're talking about. You got to bring your cat on. That's so awesome.
Once in a while. I'm bringing all the special guests. These are your special guests for today. Sorry, guys.
So we missed out to end our season. By the way, just a quick note: Leah Hextall got back. We were hoping the first female play-by-play broadcaster in the NHL with ESPN. She's done some Sportsnet and Hula. We just couldn't get our times exactly right for our end of season. We will be over the summer season still interviewing her, and we will start our season off, season 4, going back to an interview that we're going to have had with Leah Hextall. We're going to get her thoughts on the whole thing on the frenzy, all this pieces, what she sees coming next year, what we can look forward to. So it'll be interesting, a whole different take. So thank you, though, for joining in, but we apologize if you came in today thinking, I'm going to hear from Leah Hextall. So I'm sorry, that's the best voice I can make.
Baby and a cat. That's what you get. That's your consolation prize.
Man,
but
today
you didn't really hear from them.
I was just looking at my lighting today. I look like I'm totally tanned. Like I just got out of a tanning bed. Okay, so let me just come back here. I want people to recognize with a goalie, it's not so simple as he played good, he played bad. We brought people like Cassidy Sauvé, who plays goal, and she talks about sometimes you can stop a beach ball. Sometimes, everything is like a beach ball to you for every little puck going by. And other times, the beach ball could actually get by you for real. And it's a confidence game. There's so much to it, but you do need to see consistency. And so I know that Campbell has not had that really these last couple of years, and he's gone through some injury issues that he's had to work through. This last year, though, I want to remind people his bad spell that he had in Toronto. He started off as a Vezina candidate, but he got injured, and after his injury, he took a while to heal. If you look back to Mike Smith last year, coming back from a couple injuries, people were upset. He had a few games to get himself back in order. When he was playing, he was on top of the world. I also want to say the Colorado series, Mike Smith was hurting. You saw some bad goals. Why do you see those? Because the guy is injured, and these guys play through it, and they don't make excuses. And it's funny.
You also saw some defensive lapses by the Edmonton decor.
Oh, absolutely. But that's not the reason for the bad goals, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's just you lose. What people don't catch is you lose your you have to track that puck at all times to your eyes. But that's a neural thing. That's in your neural development of your brain in the tracking. And if you are dealing with any pain or distractions of other things, that's why they try to distract goalies. It throws your puck tracking off, and it affects you, and you don't make the movements correctly. So I just want to say that this is another situation. I'm going to call this, buddy, Dwayne Rollison. I want you guys to go back and look when he came to the Oilers in 05-06 run there. When he came in that 05-06 run, I think it was in 2006 when he joined us. But when he came in, people say, oh, he's good, okay. And he made a run. That growth curve came at a later stage. And I'm telling you, Mr. Jack Campbell, I said this the other year. And I mean, Desmond will remember he came on our show. I praised him then, and I'm praising him now. He's not going to be a superstar, but he will be a good goalie, and that's all Edmonton needs. That's all I have to say about Campbell.
It's been fun. So let's move over to the east side and talk about the two Ontario teams, a little bit of Battle of Ontario. What are your thoughts on what was happening with the Ottawa Senators, and do you see them contending for a playoff spot in the Atlantic?
Okay, so how about I throw this back around? I've been talking. I need to give you a chance here, Mr. Cat. All right. I mean, hey, obviously cats are a popular
give
thing.
Me your initial thoughts.
Okay,
I'll throw
I'm going to give my thought, and I'm going to throw it back your way. So one thing is, remember what I said earlier when it came to Columbus being a competitor. How is Ottawa going to be able to make a playoff run? Who are they taking out that was a 100-point team last season? Right? They have to beat
Boston.
Okay, so right now, the rumor is that Krejci is coming back for a year, and it's looking really, really close. It doesn't matter. It's giving you depth. Bergeron's coming back. I mean, there's
1 year older.
1 year older. Okay, that's like everyone saying, well, Malkin, he's washed up. He played 41 games.
I'm just saying it takes a toll on your body.
It doesn't matter when you're still producing, though. It doesn't matter how old you are. You're still good. And actually, they actually had a bad spell. And but right now, wait for the next few days. They're going to pick up some good value contracts and a couple trades, I think, in these next couple days here. That's my opinion. So, okay, so when you're asking me, will they be a contender? I really like the moves they've done. I think they've done really well. I won't get into the details. I'll let you give the details. But I don't think they're going to be a playoff team yet because there's too many teams to pass. So,
well, I think they are because they've gotten way better in their top six. When you pick up Alec DeBrincat without losing a prospect off your current roster for just the picks that Pierre Dorion gave up to Chicago, that was a steal. So now you have another great winger who scores 40 goals at least. He scored it twice in his career, so especially last year, 41 goals. Now, granted, DeBrincat's not going to be playing with Kane. That's a different story. But you also pick up Claude Giroux, who, for his age, leadership, veteranship, that two-way center, he can play potentially with DeBrincat, right? And signed a 3-year deal at 6.5. Solid deal. Now, I know there was rumblings of him going to Edmonton, maybe a few other places. Florida couldn't afford him. Great pickup. And especially with now, Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle taking another step. You have some of their young guys coming in, like Jake Sanderson on D. I think that's the biggest thing that I have for Ottawa is what are they going to do with their defense? I like their goalie upgrade. I know that, when they traded with Minnesota, Gustafsson for Talbot, that was a great trade because Talbot wants to be a starter, and I see him being able to play 40 to 45 games, maybe up to 50, but it may be too much for him at his age because he's, I believe, 35. But you have Forsberg, who's really shown he can play a 1B role, if not a 1A, last year and play very well. So their goaltending is, given most teams, is pretty solid, top 15, I would say. And again, it's their defense. I know Shabbat was playing, I think, like 26 to 28 minutes a night, like close to what McDavid and Draisaitl were. So it was very impressive. Who else is on that back end? Drake Batherson, he's a solid guy. Josh Norris is going to take another step. Is he going to be one of the top 2 centers, or is he going to drop to the third line? DJ Smith has some really good tools and assets now, so we'll see if they can do it. But I really think that they can make a push and push Boston out of that spot, especially if you think about this. They just lost Bruce Cassidy in Boston, and I know that they have who's their new head coach, but I really you want to remind me, or you guys can tell us in the comments who the new head coach for Boston is. Is it Jim Montgomery? Or I know there's
I've totally forgotten. So
I'm forgetting. I'm blanking.
There were so many coaching changes. I literally forgotten. Again today, I was mentioning.
I'm going to look it up quickly. But long story short, I see them now. Toronto, Florida, and Tampa Bay. Really, those guys should be competing for the top of that division. My one question with Florida is, you've lost a few guys. Duclair's out for a few months. Mason Marchment just signed with Dallas, so that's another guy gone. What are you doing to replace that depth in the top 9? Because I think that's the biggest question. And next year, you got to think about re-signing Barkov, because he's coming up, right? Most likely he'll stay, right? So, I don't know. It's interesting to see what they're going to do. But, and Jake DeBrusk rescinded his vote or his trade request. So that's a positive. Let me take a look here so I know.
Okay. So, something that I do just kind of want to make mention of here is
Jim Montgomery. I was right.
Good. No, that's good. Wow. You are on a roll, brother, here tonight.
It's been good. So, I honestly think, I'm not going to lie.
You're so cool tonight. You should be wearing your sunglasses.
That's my prediction. Now, the one question I have is Toronto, and I know they picked up Ilya Samsonov. They made some questionable choices. They didn't re-sign or re-qualify Andre Kasha, who ended up going to, I believe, Carolina. They got Samsonov and Matt Murray. I just don't know about that goaltending. That's the thing. Okay. Now, that being said, last year, they didn't exactly have the best goaltending with Peter Mrazek. Now, Jack Campbell played well, but as you indicated earlier, played injured. Wasn't the best. But I think they can outscore their opponents.
I didn't finish that. Campbell in the playoffs was, even though he had an 893 or something, he was not the issue against Tampa Bay, man. He was standing on his head. It was that team was struggling defensively. They were really struggling against the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah. The one surprise signing I thought I would have seen today was Corey Perry with Colorado, but
Okay, so I do want to mention I totally expect what we're going to see is Jacob Chychrun being traded. I can see that happening in possibly sometime between now and the next week or two. Now, I wonder if there's a possibility that Ottawa could get involved to get that guy in their back end, because they're going for it now, right?
Yeah.
Claude Giroux says he thinks that they can win. If he says that, he believes it. I mean, he's got his off-season home he just built out in the Ottawa area. So
he's from that area too. So.
Now, I don't put nothing by him, and it's very possible. But is it possible that, and it's been rumored for a while, and there's been interest, can Holland try to stabilize that back end by bringing in Chychrun and giving up a few assets to make that happen?
I would love it. I would love it.
I mean, I just, right now, he's up to some sneaky things because he realizes he's got to do it. This year and next year is really his, you got 3 years, but you know what I'm saying, right? But their defense right now, with because what you've done is your defense right now, you've taken out Keith and you made Kulak to replace him. I'm sorry, he's not as good a defenseman. I like him, and I think he can do good in pint-sized pieces. There's a reason he got the contract he did. And to put him as your top 4, he's going to get a chance, we're told. But let's face it, he can step up for a few games. He did that for Nurse. I really like him. He's a utility player. I think that can play on any pairing. But I think they got to bring in the top 4 guy, and they're still looking for it. So I'm looking at Ottawa, Edmonton, and one other place for Chychrun. Just be careful and watch, because I wonder if the Islanders could be a potential place as well for him.
Yeah, it's
So
surprising how quiet some of the teams like Islanders were, as well as Winnipeg. I was very surprised at how quiet it was, because you wonder
yeah,
what their plan is. Are they sticking with that core? Are they changing anything? Even New Jersey wasn't very busy.
yeah.
Didn't really pursue anything.
They
There was
yeah.
a few other teams that were just very quiet, and you thought, like, what are you guys up
I
to?
think Jersey was really pushing on the Goudreau today. They really thought they had something coming.
Yeah, yeah.
Not sure why something came up there, or did they? That's what I had thought. It looked like it from a lot of people. By the way, hearing Islanders that they've got some offers in, or there's in discussions with the Cadre camp with the
Mhm.
Islanders. So that I think they do have. But Lou, he's quiet, eh?
Yes.
And then he just
He
hits.
doesn't river. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
peep. Yeah, last
yeah.
last minute, like eleven
So
fifty nine.
so do you think that PK Subban signed somewhere for like a $1 or $1.5 million contract?
I think he does, but it's a gamble, and it would be short term, maybe a 1 or 2 year, just
Okay.
because of his back injury. He's not the player that he once was.
Yeah.
He can still play, and I'm sure he'll be lined up for any kind of public role afterwards, because he's a
Yeah.
great face
Oh,
of the
absolutely.
game and really
Yeah.
knows how to connect with the fans. I wouldn't be surprised if he went somewhere, even back to Montreal for a little bit, just to mentor the kids, you know.
So
But I don't know what that relationship was like. But I mean, Mark Bergevin is gone, so who would, who knows? Maybe
yeah.
Kent Hughes will take a chance on him.
So here's someone else that you might want to think of in because Pittsburgh doesn't have a lot of money, correct? So
Yeah,
they're
they've really signed up. So
oh
congrats to Pittsburgh for locking everybody up. I was wrong. This is where you get to say you're right and I was wrong, because I did not think that they would be able to keep all three of those guys with what supposedly was being reported. And that's the one
yeah,
thing I do
yeah,
want to say. It's like, to the end of, like, until it's ink on paper and it's
yeah,
dry,
true,
anything can happen. And the reason I want to
yeah,
bring that up is, as a side, is there was a potential trade that Bob McKenzie presented for Ottawa and Edmonton involving Connor Brown,
yeah.
and he
Today,
ends
yeah,
up going to Washington for a second round pick. So
yeah,
it goes
because
to show you, like,
yeah, it looked like Edmonton was trying to find a second round pick in another trade,
with a
and
third, yeah.
but excuse me. So this is my speculation. This is coming from Evan. Nowhere else. Haven't heard nothing. But again, sometimes you got to read the leaves. And I wonder, on a 1 year contract or a 2 year contract, really low price, whatever fits within their cap, maybe a 1 or a 2 million. Will Phil Kessel make a return on right wing over to the Pittsburgh Penguins?
He
Because
could.
Malkin likes him. That's really weird that Malkin and Phil are friends, because when I watched that team before, those two guys seem to fight and
Oh,
yell at each other
well, they
all the
didn't like
time.
each other for a while, but
Yeah,
they've overcome their differences.
but it's interesting. Like, did they? But sometimes, like, think of brothers sometimes, right? Or sisters, they can fight and fight. Just nobody else can fight with them. Only you,
Yeah,
right?
100%,
And,
100%.
and
Now,
so anyway, that I just see Kessel, if he's going to play again this year, he's going to play in a contender. He's not going to be going and just signing a 1 year to, like, stay in Arizona, unless he's actually just wants money and he'll just try to max it.
Now I want to touch base on a few teams, because there's so much going on. I mean, 32 teams. There's so much to talk about.
Okay,
Vancouver.
and we do need to touch base on that draft, by the way.
We do. So
We do.
Vancouver. What
Yeah.
is going on now? You signed Ilya Mikheyev, so you've got an all Russian line, which maybe Patrick can speak to. Patrick Conway, and in thinking, you've got Kuzmenko, and you've got now Ilya Mikheyev, who is a good north-south skater, but
Yeah.
really for that price, it's a little steep, unless that's your top nine. But Mikheyev wanted to play top six role. That was one of the reasons why he didn't stick around
Yeah.
in in Toronto. And when I was talking with a contact I have in Vancouver, he says, he's not a big fan of the contract. People are a little skeptical about it. So what does Vancouver do? Do they trade JT Miller? Does he go somewhere? Do they stick with Bo Horvat, JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, who now they have two of, which is hilarious, because they drafted him, which we'll talk about the draft in a sec.
He was hurt.
But,
He wasn't on the ice, actually. He was hurt in the development camp. So
no, I know. But what I'm saying is, what does Vancouver do, Evan? Quick thoughts.
Okay, this is my theory. My theory is they are not moving JT Miller unless they get something what they feel equal value that gives some term or close to a player that's going to be like a 60, 70 point player minimum. I think they're holding on to him. He's going to be their first line center. I mean, they don't grow on trees, those guys. And I think that they're going to, if they let him go, they're letting him go. But they're looking for a team that can grab him, that they can get their first round pick.
Which I'm sure Calgary would have wanted for Johnny
For
because
2023. Yeah.
But,
so, I mean, they're probably still another year or two away from competing. So could they get the first round draft pick and maybe he goes over to a place like I mean, I just don't see Calgary and Vancouver making a deal, especially a 1 year deal because he's only got 1 year.
The Vancouver Flames. They've taken a bunch of the players from
the Vancouver Flames,
or sorry, the Calgary Canucks.
The Calgary Canucks. What? Okay.
They've traded before. You're saying they've never traded before?
No, everybody's traded, but I'm saying they don't trade key players usually. They're always okay. You name me a key. Now I want you to give me. You keep saying this, even with the Oilers and Flames. You're like, oh, they did a big trade. It was Steve Stamkos,
Milan Lucic, or James Neal.
A problem for a problem. That's not a big. That's not a big deal.
And Neal fans are going to be upset that you don't think those are key players.
I think anyone who has a hockey sense know they're not key players. I'm talking about those teams don't deal with players that are star players. They just don't trade star players.
You're just sour about the fact that I was right, but it's okay. Fine, I'll think of players.
It's funny because I never said that they never traded. What I said is that they don't trade significant players. There's very little action in history.
I'm just busting balloons here.
All right, man. So hey, something to look at today. They signed a lot in Vancouver, like Philip de Giuseppe, or however you say his name, Dakota Joshua, Wyatt Kolnick.
A lot of smaller depth guys.
By the way, overpay, man, on Mikheyev. I was not a fan of 4.75. But they seem to be paying for those guys. I do think they want to ship out Myers if they can get a chance. And Kuzmenko, I think, well, we're going to see. But how can you lose, right? He should be a decent player for them. I just don't see him going in, so I do think they're going to look for something for Miller. But they're just not going to give him away. They're going to want a really good value. And who knows? They might be in on Kadri right now and have a deal for Miller.
Possibly.
Who knows?
There's still a few. I'm surprised that Kadri didn't get off the board today.
Quite
a few other players. John Klingberg, he's returned back to Dallas to have conversations with them again to see what's going on. So
he's wanted to play there. Yeah, you're right. He's wanted to play there all along. They didn't trade him at the deadline because they actually felt not just to play.
Well, they also went to the playoffs. So I think if Dallas didn't make the playoffs, or I guess they didn't make the playoffs, but they were pushing for a spot. Sorry. They were pushing for a spot in the playoffs, but it was to the last second.
I was going to say, yeah, we're going to trade him if we don't make the playoffs. The trade deadline was way back. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, you know absolutely nothing about hockey. I get it. Okay,
I know nothing about hockey. Now, my only rant I'm going to have, because we have a rant every episode, is what are the Philadelphia Flyers doing, and why is Chuck Fletcher still at the helm of the ship? I mean, Jamie Basco can probably answer this better, but I love that team, but I don't know what's going on. And the fact that they had to buy out Oscar Lindblom, who just went through that horrific thing and came out stronger than ever, and then they buy him out. You couldn't have traded him. You let him play it out. He was a good top 9 guy. He could have still performed. Now, granted, he got picked up, but
wasn't he only in the million range? I mean, it wasn't much to it didn't even make sense to try and clear out that space. I don't even
know what they're doing. That team is in a disarray. Ever since they fired Ron Hextall, it's in a disarray.
I was following a bit of what Jamie Basco was saying, and they were hoping they were on Goudreau. They knew that they weren't. They didn't have the cap space right now. This is what I think is happening. Think of these names, okay? So you got $6.75 million in Ivan Provorov, right? Now the guy's young; he's 25. You got Rasmus Ristolainen. He's sitting at around 5, just a little over 5. He's 27. Now they have Anthony DeAngelo. He's 26. They signed him at 5.
Weird signing.
Yeah, what you're looking at. Now they have Travis Sanheim at 4.675. And they did bring Braun back, not bad, because even though he's older at 1.75, they needed something. And they still have Cam York sitting there under $1 million. But so really you're relying on Provorov, Ristolainen, D'Angelo, and Sanheim in your top four, and right there alone, you got what, 22, 23 million dollars tied up in those four guys, and no one's going to say that's a great top four.
No.
So I think D'Angelo and
Ellis. You're forgetting
yeah,
about Ellis, who's been
yeah, true.
injury gone.
So I actually think the player that they're going to move out that they signed last year, and they're going to find a way to move him out is Rasmus Ristolainen. I think
But they
he'll
just
be the
signed him
one.
this offseason.
Yeah, well, I think that he's going to be the guy they're going to look to move, just because he is not the right guy. But I think Fletcher's going to be out by trade deadline. I think that he's
before that. I think he's out by Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how much Tortorella has any say in any of this, whether they're consulting with him. I mean, I don't know. Did he need money to go back to a mess like this? I feel for Flyers fans. You know, I was once a major Flyer fan, and it's really sad to see. Oh, by the way, I just realized something. This year, Ilya Brizlikov is now finally off of their books.
Wow. But not Rick DiPietro. It's every year is Rick DiPietro year for New York Islander fans. Well, not really, but for the rest of the league.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because he still has his buyout from whenever, right? So that's just weird. That's just
going
weird,
on
man.
for a while. I think it goes up till like 2030 or 2029, like something very ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's insane.
These guys buying.
Now here's what I'm going to say, because people gloat, and we've talked about this in the past with Stevie Yzerman being a brilliant GM. I'm not sure if some of his moves have been the best.
Today,
I've been curious. He took a risk on Husso, fair, still unproven, but he took a risk for $4.7 million. Okay,
I'm cool with that.
He's a young goalie, 25, not the best. Ben Sherratt, 4.475. I mean, I don't know. And then, you got rid of Mark Stahl, and I know he went to Carolina, but I don't know. Like, it's interesting.
I like Andrew Kopp, but at 5.63, 5 years for 5.6.
For 5 years?
For 5 years, yeah.
He's supposed to be a Zach Hyman kind of player, like a Swiss Army knife, but I don't know. So Yzerman has a good plan. I don't know if, and I know that Moritz Seider and Lucas Raymond are going to take their next steps, and those players are going to be elite and dynamite. And really, and, Dylan Larkin's coming up, I believe, next year. That's their captain, their franchise player. But I don't know. I don't think Yzerman had the best. Like, it was good, but don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like a steal of a deal.
Yeah.
So,
well, you kind of wonder, right? If you're sitting there. Perron, too, right? They brought Perron in just under $5 million,
for 2 years. So that's a good thing. But I feel like Perron will just end up back in St. Louis somehow. It's a match made in heaven there.
Well, that was one of the rumors if Kane wasn't coming back, is that were they going after Perron as well, right? In Edmonton. So
finally, what's Vegas doing trading Pacioretty away for nothing? What's going on in Vegas?
3 letters, 1 word. C-A-P. Cap. They gave Fleury away, and now they're giving Pacioretty away because they can't manage their cap, and they keep going over.
No loyalty to your players, none whatsoever.
There's a lot of talk about that right now. I'd be interested to see, does anyone in the NHL talk about that? Because if they really care, about what's going on in Vegas specifically.
Oh, yeah.
Do they think like that, or do we just as fans, people on the outside, your media, are they the only ones that care, or do players actually care that they're let go or they're moved on, or it looks like no loyalty? Obviously, it matters to Marc-Andre Fleury, but is it a big thing that people look at around the league? And you know how I think we're going to know? Players will not keep signing there. They'll eventually decide, as long as that regime is in place, they won't continue. But I was going to say, if you followed the movements of Brad McCrimmon,
Kelly McCrimmon.
Thank you. Brad was his brother who passed away.
Good to know you know nothing about GMs.
Did you know who Brad was and what he did and who he played for?
No, but I don't have to, because I know who Kelly McCrimmon is.
Brad McKinnon died on the locomotive flight. He was the coach of the team in Russia, as well as he was a defenseman for the Philadelphia Flyers and the Calgary Flames. Brad McCrimmon. Wonderful man. So Kelly, when he owned the Brandon Wheat Kings and worked as the general manager, he was constantly moving and making some of the biggest deals in the WHL. So it's always been a thing for him. It's almost like a toy now, though, isn't it? It's just like,
Yeah.
can I move the dice? Can I move the chessboard? And I got all this, and I got money, and Foley, our owner, is going to pay. So eventually, though, it's going to come back and
So
and
we
backfire.
we can only assume that they're in on Kadri too, right?
Oh man,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's true. It's definitely something. Now, I will add to that comment because you look at Edmonton, and you've had people talk about, well, nobody wants to go play in Edmonton because it's kind of a dung hole place, or there's no success. And this playoff shows that people want to play here. Kane wanted to come here. Big names were being thrown out for Edmonton to see if they would even return, because
Zach Hyman last year, right? Zach Hyman came here.
Yeah. So it goes to show you that players do care about where they play because they do value. And I say that's the similar thing to Toronto, just because of how they've treated the last two goalies with Freddie Anderson and Jack Campbell. Now, Toronto fans can get upset all they want at me, and I'm okay with it. But really, you could say that he was bad, but Freddie played well. And granted, he got injured for Carolina this year, but he had a Vezina-like year, right? Like, that's how well he played. And Jack Campbell was a solid, solid 1B guy that came out of nowhere that they were able to develop. I wonder if Dubas is also on the hot seat with this Matt Murray decision and what that's going to mean, and if he's going to be out, as well as Brendan Shanahan, because the Shanahan plan's has been in since 2014. Is it going to work, or are they gone after this regime, and what that's going to mean for the core, as well as what does that mean for Austin Matthews, who's up in 2 years?
Yeah, you got to really wonder about that, right? I mean, I think if they have a bad season, I think Dubas could be gone if they have a bad season to start and they're on the outside of the playoff. But I don't think that'll happen. They have a good enough team with enough stars that even if they're not doing well, they'll still be in that playoff hunt. So he's got
and
this
Morgan
year.
Riley's new contract comes into effect.
Let's just say they need to win at least and get into the second round this year. Otherwise, Dubas is gone.
Those are low expectations. They're supposed to win it all. But okay.
Yeah. So, okay. Hey, let's. We're getting to the end of our show. I just want to. We might come back if we have a few minutes here for last thoughts and stuff. I want to come back. Do you remember we were talking last week as we're going to the draft and everything? I pulled up some of the stats that I wanted to mention. Remember we talked about fairy dust. Anything in the second round and on. So I actually now have found my information I was wanting to. Mike Smith, our friend of the show and former guest, will love this information. So specifically, I want to show you, this is how important. Picks 1 to 5 to actually become an NHLer, that means like 300 games plus, 97.7%. You want to always get in there. To become a superstar, that probably meaning that they're always in your top 4, your top 3 or 4, right? 45.5% in the top 5. Okay, I'm just going to drop down a whole bunch now. So watch this. Picks 11 to 20, 75.3%. 75.3% in the top 20 will become an NHLer. 7.1 will only become a superstar. If you want a superstar, you got to be in the top 10. And if you actually want a good chance, the best chance, you have to be in the top 20. Now watch this, 21 to 30. This is first round. 21 to 30. Only 44.4 chance of being an NHLer and an 8.3 chance of being actually a superstar. Round 2 drops to 30% of even being an NHLer. Round 3 drops another 10%. And of course, by the time you get to rounds 5, 6, and 7, you're between 11 and 7%, and only a 1% of a superstar. So this is why,
gems
and there is, but those gems only come in that percentage. So if you think about it, right, you to get into that gem that's at the 2%, you got to have 20 picks. So it takes 4 years to have one potential star. And that's a star, not a superstar even, just to make a good NHLer. And that's why they throw out NCAA. That's why they grab people out of Europe, different places. So when people are saying, Evan, why aren't you grabbing all these players? There's a ton of places to grab. Why does a team want to draft and develop players to be in your bottom 6 or in your bottom pairing or your second backup goalie unless you're training him? So to me, you focus on round one, maybe a few two to get into round one. I literally, I would take all my picks to get in and just get one or two extra picks in round one all the time. And then I get into Europe and I get into the NCAA. I take cast-offs. I take maybe into universities in Canada. That's what I would do. So, yeah. Hey, I just want to bring up, I know you said, oh no, I'm going to let you brag because I'm going to wrap up the draft piece last week. I'll let you brag about your brackets. But I have to brag, my Revs top 15 this year, of my top 15, 14, baby, were drafted in the top 15 this past week.
Beautiful.
Woo!
Very nice.
I got to brag on it because that doesn't usually happen. I usually have about 10 or 11. I kind of maybe sometimes.
I mean, I would have gotten the same thing if I copied Bob McKenzie's list. So you're not anything special, but
go compare my list to Bob Kenzie, bud. Nobody's got a list like Rev.
I tease.
Okay. Oh, yeah, so you guys, just so you know, we were going back and forth during the draft and looking at it, and I was joking about it, and he says, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to cancel the show next week. He didn't want to come on, let me brag about it. But I told him, everyone, I'm letting you guys know, I told him he can brag about his brackets because he's so good at
for the NHL, for the playoffs?
Of
course. Yeah, I got it right. I mean, it wasn't the exact
What do you mean you got it right? What did you get
the Colorado Avalanche winning the Stanley Cup, and then the Lightning losing. That being said, on the show, I said it was going to be a Calgary Lightning rematch, so that was wrong. So clearly, I don't know nothing about hockey. But if you make enough brackets, like you say, you're bound to be right at one of them. So then you just use that one as your,
So I wanted. I don't know if all our viewers are actually going to like this, but I think he just picked Calgary for you Calgary folks because he felt bad. And he came off the show and goes, and then he came off our show and he goes, okay, my bracket will not have Calgary.
Exactly.
Sorry. Okay, man. Anyway, it was a good one. So it was an enjoyable draft. I just want to mention, no idea how Shane Wright can fall to the Seattle Kraken at number 4. This draft was weak, in my opinion, when it's going to come to those superstar players compared to most years. And I don't even blame the players. I blame the development and the lack of seeing because of the whole COVID thing. Shane Wright lost that year, which really affected him. It's a gem. You got Beniers, and now you got Wright in Seattle. Francis likes it, and I think we talked about this. If they don't get a big name, Burkowski today is okay, but if they don't get a big name to really go after this year, I have a feeling that they're wanting one of Mishkov and or Bedard this next year. And then Francis will be saying, we're all in, baby. Let's get all these other picks and let's trade them out and let's get some players.
I also, my other question is for this team, for Chicago Blackhawks, what are you doing? What is going on in Chicago? You have 3 or 4 players signed. They signed Max Domi, which he's become a veteran of a lot of teams. So I'm sure whoever has jerseys like Max Domi, I mean, he's got you beat because he's got almost every team. But really, like, you've got like 5 or 6 players signed for the upcoming season.
I know.
Who are you filling your the ice with? Like,
yeah, well,
I don't know. I know they're tanking, but really, it just goes to show you the inconsistency of one regime with Stan Bowman versus the next one with Kyle Davidson, right? And like, what is that?
Yeah, exactly. And so imagine they finish 3rd or 4th, the worst team in the league next year, and they get the 3rd or 4th pick. Yeah. It's just like, so they let go of Kublik and they let go of Strome and they trade DeBrincat and they trade every Doc.
Kirby Doc.
I mean, the team was already struggling without those guys. Now, wouldn't it be funny if they had a better season this year than they had last year?
Wow.
So,
I mean, you still have Taves and Kane and Seth Jones, which contract is now going to start up, which is going to be insane.
How'd you like to be
now
Jones?
They're talking about trading Jones. It's like, no one's going to take that contract on.
Oh, I think they will.
8 years at 9.5?
Think of it. I mean, he's right in the same age as some of the other guys that are up there. I absolutely think people will take Seth Jones. Yeah. No, he measured in. I don't agree with the money. That's not my belief, but absolutely teams will take him on. I see that no problem. In fact, you
Yeah,
wonder
go ahead.
that's where I wonder if they wait a year, could that be something where Seattle could now jump in and pick on that kind of a contract, get a good strong guy, mentor the younger ones coming in and build that team a year from now.
Now, final few questions. Washington
Okay.
Capitals, with Darcy Kemper signing there for 5.1.25, do they make the playoffs in the Metro, Evan?
No, they don't.
Yeah.
They don't. Actually, I tell you how I thought. You said I was right about Malkin, but actually I was wrong because I said yes, he'll sign, he signed, and then only this last week I looked at everything and said no, Malkin's not staying. He's upset. Obviously, Crosby has powers. He's the most powerful man in the NHL, and I think
Yes.
Crosby actually went to Hextall.
Yeah.
That's my personal belief. No one ever said.
No,
So,
that
yeah.
came out. That was talked about.
Oh,
That
oh.
Crosby flew down to Florida to go visit Malkin in his home, and that there was a big conversation about their frustration, specifically Malkin's, with upper management in Pittsburgh because of the fact of what they did for Letang, which I think is a little rich for my blood. And I really thought
Yeah.
Letang was going to be gone and maybe going to Montreal, but
Yeah, I do honor the team for holding on to those guys because those guys can still perform for a few years. They
yeah,
still are good. And you know what? I think if all three of those guys can retire Penguins, that'll be something you don't see often. But let's face it, they won them 3 cups. They deserve to stay and finish their career there. So
100%.
hats off to them. Well, man,
And
we've hit the end of the show. We got to get going. It's our season ending. So I know I'm gonna give you a minute. Throw everything into your 1 minute piece, and we're going to call it a wrap.
Well, I mean, there's so much to say. It's been a crazy busy day. I mean, I took time away from my real job to pay attention to this job by just listening and looking up and watching all the, nobody's listening from work. I know that. But really, I mean, it's been an honor and a privilege to hang out with you, chat hockey with you, have the incredible guests, learn so much more about hockey because I knew nothing. So really, I'm starting at the bare bottom. So I can only go up, right? I can't go down, even though some shows I'm pretty sure I sound like I'm even losing knowledge about nothing. So, but it's been a treat and it's been a hell of a season. It's been great from my little one to the run that the Oilers had to everything about the playoffs this year, all the teams, the trades, the draft, so much excitement, the drama. We love it. We appreciate you guys for joining, tuning in, checking us out, and listening to us talk. And we love the engagement. I've made some really cool people and friends online because of the show. And I appreciate all the hard work my co-host Evan does because you really run this podcast. I just have a face for it or a beard. I have a beard for it, which I know has come off, but it will be back for the new season. I hope.
It'll be back.
But yeah, no, it's just been fun ranting, raving with our group chat that we have. And yeah, it's been a gem.
Well, I have appreciated this season. Thank you to all you viewers, all you fans of hockey out there from around the world. Thank you to those you, especially in countries that don't have a lot of hockey going on, Australia, like even places
Pakistan.
over in Pakistan, like some of you calling in from Bangladesh and Austria, Australia, England. So I appreciate it. I'm sure we're missing some of you. Sorry. Oh, Poland, Germany, Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, even during the war. I don't know where you guys are coming from, man, but thank you so much. It's a tough time in the world. There's a lot of things happening, but we want to say that, one thing we really believe is the thing about hockey. It can bring people together, and it can just give us a relief for a little while to talk about some of the sad states of our world sometimes. But it also is a time to remember to spend time with your family and friends. That's why we're going to be taking about 6-7 weeks off. We'll be back in September after the Labor Day holiday here in Canada. We will be back to join you. We're really excited about season 4. We didn't think we'd make a season 2, but it's share.
We're make 2 episodes.
Share, like, follow, man. And I feel like we're at the Grammys and awards. We're talking to 6 people, but it don't matter. We love you anyway, guys. So, well, bud, Appreciate you. Thank you for being an awesome host. Thank you for bringing your charisma. Thank you for bringing your 1.5 self today. Uh, we're looking forward to seeing an older Rowan in season 4 as we come back.
And thank you for trying to grow a beard. It's an attempt, some of the teams trying to attempt, or the Toronto Maple Leafs trying to attempt to get to the second round. It's an effort that I see and I applaud, and I want to see more of it. Hopefully we see more beard, just like we see more of Toronto in the second round.
So I just want to say to all you that can't grow a beard out there, it's not an insult to you, even though my partner makes it sound like that. And to all you women who don't want to grow a beard, it's okay. Yeah, and to you women who do want to grow a beard, hey, go for it. And to anyone who wants to see me in a beard, go back to our episodes and see in the playoffs, because as long as the Edmonton Oilers go in the playoffs till the time they're out, I did grow a beard for about 5-6 weeks there. So if you want to see what I can grow, well, that's all you'll get to see each year. Well, it's been a blast, buddy. Thank you. In the meantime, and in between time,
keep your head up and keep your sticks on the ice.
Woo! Cheers, everyone.